All right, so you guys can see my screen? Yes? Okay, great. All right. Let's get going. And you know what I need to do is to record. Okay, you are being recorded. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I've already told you some disgusting stories about what I do with my spouse and my dog, so you can sue me. So, but you know what I normally do is we do some talk and some interaction at first, and the lectures get recorded, and along with the slides, they get posted the next day. I find that it also helps the complete async version of this course that I'm also teaching. So I try to find, if I learn something in one class, I'll send it to the next section. And if some announcement doesn't apply to your particular, hybrid modality, then just, I normally try to make sure that folks understand that, I have about 30 students in this course, and I'm super excited about teaching it. I taught EA for 3 years, and finally talked to first Dean McGuire and then Kathy Wilson and said, the textbook doesn't even know about cloud, and the textbook doesn't deal with mobility, and for goodness sakes, if we're going to use these people, can we get something more current? And I had been looking for a good textbook in EA, and I ran into a professor in Australia who had written the first edition, Svyatoslav Katusev, and I can't really, I call him Sev, and he's like, yeah, everybody calls me Sev. My students call me Dr. Sev. So anyway, I don't, but anyway, we joke about it. And I just emailed him a couple of weeks ago. I said, I'm not supposed to talk to you anymore. And he just kind of laughed. He said, look, I'm an Australian citizen now. He said, I don't buy what's going on over there with Putin. But so we just joke about Russian politics. And anyway, but I ran into Seb, and we began a friendship over LinkedIn, and a desire to see a better version of what is called enterprise architecture be taught. And I don't know how many of you want to do EA, and it seems that the more of you who learn about EA, yeah, that's fine, Ashul. I just got your text. Yeah, not a problem. Yeah, the joke is that the only thing that works well on today's college campus is parking enforcement. You may lose your grades. They may not find this. You may not. Everything will get lost, and the COVID results take 10 years to find. But boy, you exceed your time in the meter. The Nazgul will fly down, and you'll be taken away. So not the orcs, but real Nazgul. I mean, parking people. Anyway, it is an efficient business, but scary that way. So anyway, so I had wanted to redo enterprise architecture. I've redone some of the project management courses. I've done a lot of work in these fields in my corporate life, and so I wanted them to be authentic and not just some slide deck from a consultant. And I just felt like there was a lot of marketing blah blah in some of this stuff, and I wanted to take some of the mystery out of it, take some of the and it terrorized people. They were like, I don't know if I could do this. And and it was like, the first time you've ever flown in an airplane or being in a real tall building or something. And so I wanted to make sure that we took some of the terror out of it. I remember as a student at Wharton, as I got my master's degree in technology management there, I had calculus and some other math-based things in engineering when I was a cadet at West Point. But I could tell you stats, statistics wasn't my field. I finished first in my class in English, but I was considerably further back in calculus and, in physics, chemistry, and all these, the math-based stuff. So I went up to the prof at the end of the first statistics class at Wharton, and he went on for 2 hours, and I was just absolutely terrified. And so I went up to him and I said, look, Professor, it's been a while since, I was an undergrad, and let's just say math, and stats are not my strong suit. He said, oh, okay, well, you want to buy my book. And the name of the book was called Statistics for the Terrified. And it's still out there. And this was like 25 years ago. And if you ever have problems with statistics, I would recommend, in fact, I sent my copy to my son, who's a financial technologist, and he's doing a bunch of, standard deviations and means and all these kinds of things. And so I just sent him my copy, heavily underlined. So, but anyway, so I stole that title, and we're going to do Enterprise Architecture for the Terrified. So if you have not, some of you have done amazing things technologically. I've outfitted whole campuses. I've built and wired large, 1,000-acre facilities with 500 or 600 buildings and, campus-wide kind of things, and worked in software-defined networking and Metro Ethernet connectivity and a lot of other standards, as well as storage networking. Look at my LinkedIn bio just to see how great I am. Actually, I just worked with some really smart people, but learned a few things along the way. And if you don't have that, experience, this stuff looks just overwhelming. You look at all these diagrams, and it can be just brutal. And so we're not going to dumb it down. I don't like this, whatever the enterprise architecture for idiots or something like that. I don't like that. I think it's a skill and almost an art to take complex matters and get to the heart of them and be able to speak to the root of the matter and not just overwhelm people with acronyms and buzzwords and diagrams. And so I like, somebody called the word simplexity. It's to take complexity and explain it in simple terms. Whenever I interview people, I ask them, please explain to me IP addressing, and I'm 8 years old. Explain to me, and they'll, well, you got the subnet mask and the, an IP6 and IP4, and no, you got to talk about mailing a letter somewhere or something like that, and what addressing is, and and it always surprises me if people can communicate really well in these areas. And so more than anything else, I want you to learn the issues and the heart of the matter, because it's really not that complex. And 5 or 10 years from now, you're going to say at some point, that stuff that Professor Bauer, even though he's 100, he must be 190 by now, all that stuff that he said, he really distilled it down into basic things. What do we have? What do we need? How do we get there? How much does it cost? And those are questions that if your IT people and your business people are not asking those questions, you should ask them, because you might be surprised. You might find out that they don't know answers to those questions, and if they don't, you're in more trouble than you think. So anyway, enough of the intros, but that's what we're going to do. And the only people, I'll tell you this, the only people who have flunked this course, and you got to do a lot, or actually not do a lot, to flunk a course in the ICT program at DU. It's not set up like it's PhD level research, or the code that you're writing, for those of you writing software, is not terribly complex, at least from the snippets that I've seen. But they did not, the two students who unfortunately had to, earn those grades, did not do the homework. And this is a set of sequenced assignments. And there's a case study, I think it begins in week 4, week 3, that forces you to deal with a particular aspect of enterprise architecture. And then by the end of the term, in week 10, you do a portfolio assignment. You take all these pieces together. You do a PowerPoint and you do a video. So it's a summative approach where you add a little bit each week. And just because you don't have to turn something in every week, it's easy to get faked out and say, it's an optional reading, or I don't really, or I'll catch up. And the problem is, as you can often find out in life, you can get behind, and by the time you realize you're behind, you don't have enough time to catch up, and you're turning in things for a grade that you really haven't prepared, only because there's something more the next week. And there's no time to catch up when you wait till week, 7, 8, or 9. So I'm not trying to scare anyone, but fear is a good thing. I'm not trying to terrorize you, but I do want you to have a healthy respect for the syllabus, and also a healthy respect for Dr. Katusev. He has written a fantastic book, and the second edition is even better. We'll talk about Sev. It's Tuesday, and you have a week to do this assignment. So I'm not assuming that everybody has done all the readings. I'm going to summarize the first 2 chapters, or chapter 1 and the appendix, which I think should be read in that order, and then module or chapter 2. But by the end of the week, I really want you to read and understand what Dr. Katusev is talking about, because he's refreshingly free of jargon and buzzwords. And I grow weary. I hope none of you are doing too much marketing in the tech world, because there's so much empty verbiage. It's disruptive this, and enterprise that, and agile this, and everything is awesome and cool and brilliant and game changing, and whatever the buzzwords are for the current generation. And enterprise architecture is not sexy. It's absolutely essential when you understand what it is. And once you understand how to do it, you will never want for a job. I mean, I'm 67, and I get offers all the time. I don't want to work anymore. I want to walk my dogs in the snow, which is accumulating. I'm looking out my window at it. So anyway, say all that to say, let's jump in. If you are really freaked out after tonight, send me an email. We'll do a one-on-one. We'll do a Zoom. I want my students to do well, And that doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a geek at this thing. As someone in the business, you have a very big responsibility to make sure that things are done right. And as I always say, IT is too important these days to be left to the IT department. And it doesn't work if IT runs the show. They have to work collaboratively with the business unit. So enough said. Let's look at the agenda for tonight. We will probably go till, I don't know, 7:30, 7:45. We'll take a break. I don't go to 9 o'clock. I tend to drone on, as you probably already know. I tend to drone on too much already. And those times that we're together, we'll probably work a little bit more. But you'll have the recordings and you'll have the decks, and I think that'll be enough. And if you have questions, we always do that at the end of each of the decks. So we'll do some welcomes and some introductions. We'll walk through introduction to the text and the class and chapter 1, and we'll look at the history of enterprise. And the question that I want you to think about is this last bullet. What's more important in this endeavor? Getting the right framework, designing the right, template or standard, or how you, arrange all the components, or is it good communication? And I think you probably kind of know which way I'm leaning on. Now, good communication is not easy, and technical frameworks and lining everything up and making sure they work together is not easy either. But try explaining all the technology to the business units, and they're gonna just roll their eyes. What's that phenomenon? MEGO, you ever heard of that? MEGO, mine eyes glaze over. Somebody's droning on and on about tech. So anyway, we did. Some of you have done this in your, in the discussions already. So you've got some sense of it. I'd like for each of you to describe, what you're doing if you're employed. What are you working on? Where are you in the program? And what do you like to do? If you have industry or corporate or other experience educationally or in the workplace, that's fine. And then what do you want to get out of the next 10 weeks? I mean, okay, I want an A. All right, great. We all do. And I'm not unaware of that. But is there something that you've seen in your own company so far, or in your experience, that somebody said, wow, we needed a better enterprise architect here? Or is there something that you would like to walk away with this from that's humble? I don't want to learn how to connect everything in the world. I do want to ask good questions, so that if I'm in a business meeting and we're talking to IT, I can ask educated questions that don't make me look like a fool. And if I'm talking to a fool, their foolishness can be revealed before we all spend a lot of money and get disappointed. So I don't know if you want to go from the top of the Zoom record of who's here. Some folks didn't have their cameras on, so I skipped a few people who haven't gone yet. So I apologize. I guess we're going to have to get you the Mercedes limos too. So there goes the DU budget. But anyway,
that's what I think, Leon.
Yeah, go ahead. I think Ravi and Ramath. I think apologies for not noticing you. Go right ahead.
I can go ahead. So My name is Shravya. So I live here in Aurora and I'm originally from India. So this is my third quarter in ICT and my concentration is cybersecurity and management. So I have like few years of experience as a desktop support engineer with Salesforce and ADP back in India there.
Wow.
And now I'm a full-time student. So areas of interest are like, I'm an outgoing person, so I like socializing and hanging out with friends. And I also enjoy painting. And I'm really excited about this course because I heard about the term enterprise architecture, but I really don't have any understanding on that. So I thought I'll get more learning in this course. So to understand what is architecture, like how it goes in the business and everything. Yeah.
Excellent. Now, where in India are you from?
I'm from Hyderabad.
Oh, okay, great,
Yeah.
great. We did a lot of work there. We had a team that wrote code for us for storage management interoperability, and it was a good team. HP owned the project, but it was a collaborative effort with a lot of the storage companies. Now everybody puts their storage in a cloud and has it all, collected together. But when I started, people were still hanging, drives off of individual servers. That's how old I am. And so it's one of those things where you've watched this whole industry take off, and we could never have had the cloud and some of these other modalities without the ability to put lots and lots and lots of storage in one place. So that's great. I always, when I think of Hyderabad, I think of that group. And I just remember getting up for the Monday morning meeting. And, it was morning in Hyderabad. So it was very late for me on Sunday night. So anyway, that's great. It's good to have you on board.
Thank you.
All right. Who's next?
I'm going there.
Okay. Hey, Robbie.
Hey, Robbie. It's good.
Hello, everyone. It's Ravdeja. I'm from southeast part of India, and I'm not into computer science or any IT related in my bachelor's, but I did my bachelor's in civil engineering. After that, I worked as a junior environmental engineer for about 2 years. After that, because of interest in the software, I jumped into this field, and I'm learning at this point.
Ravi, I'm getting about every third word, and I know you were doing something for 2 years, so congratulations. I'm not sure what it was, but anyway, I don't know if it's the connection or the Wi-Fi or something like that. But anyway, and what program are you in the ICT program?
My concentration was in software design and programming.
Okay, great. Yeah, I hear that real well now. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm new to this field, so I'm just learning everything from the guys.
Excellent. Ravi, it's good to have you on board.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. And
hi there.
Hi, Ramath.
I'm the last one. So my name is Rahmat and I'm from India, Hyderabad as well.
Oh, and great.
I did my bachelor's from Hyderabad in IT only. So after that, I took just a training for 6 months in SAP basis administration. And after that, I got here. So never got the chance to work actually in an environment. And this is my third quarter in here. And from this course, it's I've heard a lot about the enterprise architecture while doing that SAP courses and all. So really means I'm really excited to explore it in detail. And that's all.
Excellent. It's good to have you on board, and this is wonderful. All right. Okay. We're at the top of the hour, and let's drive on into. Can you guys still see the slide deck? With the okay, great. Let me plow through don't be afraid. It says 47 slides. We won't do all 47. So we don't want anyone falling asleep either in class or on the way home. It's still snowing. So, all right. I mentioned the book, Seb's book. Make sure if you haven't gotten it, please get it. The cheapest price, I think, is through, you know, I'm not supposed to say this, but it's through Amazon. But make sure, like all things Amazon, make sure you order the right thing. And so get the second edition, because the first edition will be a lot cheaper, but there's been a lot of upgrades to it. As I mentioned before, it's uncomplicated, but thorough. And you don't always get that kind of balance. He's absolutely cloud friendly, multi-org, global, spread, all the things that today's enterprises have to keep in mind. And as I said earlier, he's refreshingly disrespectful of expensive consultancies. There's a lot of money that's spent on consultants, and I know I've been a consultant for various things, and I always felt like I didn't really always help the company solve the problem. I was trying to fix or force what I knew into their situation, which is a different thing. So anyway, the first chapter and the last chapter, the appendix A, which is the history of this phenomenon from the US 1950, 1960s, is worth its weight in gold. Please get this book. If it will be a great reference, and especially if you're thinking about working in the space. We will not read every chapter, but I hope we read enough for you to say, wow, this is pretty good. I'd like to read some more of this. Problem with the program is you never get to read even the stuff you're supposed to read. And then when you go out and get a job, you don't have time to. So I don't know when you get it done, but if you can, it's a good thing. The attitude that Dr. Katusev takes in the text makes it unique among a lot of EA, because there's a lot of cheerleading, and it's going to do this and it's going to do that, and it's better than sliced bread, and it will solve all your problems. And I'd like to be realistic. It's something that needs to happen, but a lot of times it doesn't happen well. So we're trying to provide a balance between what does the research and the experience show, what are good about standardizing. I like standards. I help build standards in storage, standards in software-defined networking, standards in Metro Ethernet spec, global Ethernet connectivity. All the folks at CenturyLink would know all about some of that stuff. So don't get me wrong, but there's also some other things in there as well. So I'm just gonna blow through a couple of these things. You'll get the full slide deck, but slide 8 says, this is a broad audience, including practitioners, academics, students. And for someone who does this, it's good to understand, how to do it better. To those people who try to understand organizations, increasingly IT is one of the most important parts of a successful business. So this has a lot of really good modeling of how a particular business function takes place. But this is, more than anything else, a sound introduction to the discipline of enterprise architecture. Side question, are any of you familiar with the United States sitcom called Seinfeld? You can admit it. Don't be embarrassed. Okay. One of the characters, a guy named George, when he was asked what he did for a living, he liked to lie. He liked to lie all the time. But do you know what George used to lie about in terms of his job? Go ahead, Anshul.
Architect.
Yeah.
He was an
He wanted,
architect. Yeah.
no, he wanted to pretend to be an architect.
Yeah. Art Vandelay, I think was his name. But I'm going to find that YouTube video. It's got to be there somewhere.
That's amazing.
I keep calling you guys. I will start calling you guys apprentice architects, and just so that you at least at a cocktail meeting, you say, well, I've dabbled in architecture. I haven't really decided my particular designs yet, but yeah, I studied at DU, and yeah, I'm familiar. And you can meet wonderful people at parties, and fall in love and all that good stuff if you're still single. So anyway, that's all I'm going to say. All right, the course. Hopefully you've looked at the modules. We spend a couple of weeks understanding roles, what EA can do, and what are the various methodologies. We'll look at the sub levels of EA, information systems, technology, and a variety of other sub levels will be introduced to Togaf, the Open Group Architectural Framework. Togaf. This is an acronym that was created by tech people because it sounds disgusting. It sounds like you have some really bad virus growing in your toes, and oh my God, I got Togaf. I got to get medicine for it or some cream or something like that. So anyway, but we'll make fun of it. But no, we're going to understand Togaf. You may criticize it, but you should earn the right to criticize it by understanding what it purports to do, and as such, at least have a respect there. We'll talk about security, reference architecture, standards, the impact of regulatory drivers in EA. If you look around, I mean, the European Union is pioneering this, but it's catching on in the United States, and really all, India's got a really good set of responsibility frameworks for IT. And so a lot of things like that. And along the way, as you do these modules, looks like I skipped week 3, but it's there. You will also be doing this this case study in a company called Archie Surance. It's a fake name. A company that's merged from 3 different insurance companies, and they want to use the opportunity of their merger to upgrade their IT and to do it with the guidance of the Togaf framework. Nobody does Togaf perfectly and even the same way, but to have at least some structure is a good idea. So we'll do that. All right, I want to talk a little bit. 7:13. I will guarantee you we'll be out by 8 o'clock. So if we don't take a break, because if we take a break, some of you will never come back. But no, seriously, if you need to leave because of the snow, it looks. I'm kind of looking at the weather screen, and I'm looking at Denver weather, and so some of this stuff is moving north. So it's still snowing here lightly, but anyway, I don't want anyone to be or to feel unsafe. That's not part of the. It's okay to be terrified of enterprise architecture, but don't be terrified of driving on icy roads. Okay, that's just not good. So I'm going to briefly talk about enterprise architecture for folks who may not be familiar with it. And I want to start, I'm a literature buff at heart. I like to read. I've published 5 different books on everything from religious cults to the security of critical infrastructure, to networking and to SDN and, et cetera. So I'm one of these guys who never quite settled down in any one domain. So I like Charles Dickens, and I do like his famous book, The Tale of Two Cities. And so we'll start out with a little Dickensian introduction. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. The season of light. It was the season of darkness. The spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. Charles Dickens, and I think you never knew that he was an enterprise architect back in the 1800s. But seriously, it sounds like my dating life before I got married. But anyway, I think I'm kind of joking about this, but it is the best of times in terms of IT. It's the worst of times in terms of IT as well. IT investment, as Katousov goes through, the United States private business investments in IT from less than 100 billion in 1980 to more than 500 billion in 2010. That's not adjusted for inflation. But the IT investment in capital investment of all CapEx investments went from 32% in the 80s to over 50% by 2010. Where is it now? And so IT budgets have increased by 75% in corporate, from 3.5% of revenue to almost double to over 6%. So it is a good time to work in IT. In terms of efficiency and scale, the systems we run are powerful. They run around the clock. They're diverse. They're affordable. There's a spec that says for a megabyte of storage, it drops X amount per year. It's kind of like Moore's law, which says the speed of a chipset doubles in roughly every 18 months. And this has kept consistent in 50 years. So it's really amazing. I mean, I'm not saying that the tech companies have not always been responsible with using all this compute power, but in fact, I've got a patent application pending with the U.S. Patent and Trade Office for an ethical algorithm. You probably know that when you apply to Indeed or any of the major job sites or any of the major tech companies, your resume is screened usually with some kind of AI filtering function. It also happens for promotions and things like that. Not all of the factors in the filtering are known to you. And some of them, as Amazon found out, are illegal and in some cases unethical and others even immoral. That racism and sexism and a lot of other nasty things that are illegal, the algorithms and AI are such a black box that people don't understand. And so they may not ever get called back because somebody read their resume, some machine read their resume, and the ML involved in it said, oh, this person is a person of color, or this person is older than 50, which in the tech world is, unless you own the company, it's hard to get hired and hard to get promoted. So make all the money you can right now. But anyway, we're going to create a certified ethical algorithm without showing, the secret sauce and and the actual code. We've created a process that can put a seal, like a good housekeeping seal, like that this is an ethical algorithm and it does not violate the laws and mores of a particular state. So we have it set up for, the United States legal framework, the EEOC division. We have it working in the European Union, the prototype, and so I'm excited about keeping IT honest and fair, because sometimes it doesn't work that way. So anyway, but so many things are happening. We have ERP, and by the way, anytime I see an acronym or an abbreviation, I will always spell it out so that you don't just say, oh, ERP. I don't know what the hell an ERP is, and I guess it's some like Togaf, but when you eat too many burritos or something like that, you get ERP. But enterprise resource planning. I mean, this is a longer, older solution. Content resource management, where you're managing those of you working in web and other media understand this. SCM, which is proved to be very important during the pandemic, supply chain management, BI, business intelligence, enterprise content management, which is a superset of CRM, KM, knowledge management, would be, so all these things are, it's a great time to work in tech. So it's the best of times. It's also the worst of times. Aligning IT and business gets more and more brutal. I have notes in most of these slides, and so just so that normally I just read them, but Forbes magazine, and this was last year, IT projects are notoriously difficult to manage. The average IT project overran its budget by 27%. That's a lot of money. And if you got $1 million projects and you're spending 27% more, at least 1 in 6 IT projects turns into a black swan with a cost overrun of over 200% and a schedule overrun of 70%. Now, you only got one more constraint. If you've blown through 2 out of 3, and so it's could be the worst of times too. When you want to figure out how to run your enterprise IT, do what everybody does. Just look in Google and look under the images, because we all like pretty diagrams more than lots of text. And I found 38 full screens of images, okay? And when you zoom in, a lot of them are stunning repetitions of the graph right next to it, except it's different colors or they're squares instead of circles. And, the differences are not really that important. But somebody's selling one set of images and another company selling the other set. And that's really the only difference. So it can get, after 50 years, we should have some common routes that we take. But the presence of very expensive consultancies, I believe, means that there's a motive to obscure information rather than illuminate it. That somebody's going to steal it if you speak as plainly as Katusev does. I think that we need more and not less of that clarity. So anyway, a lot of different things about the challenges to systems, but I want to talk briefly about IT and business, because that's really the most important relationship. Business managers, IT specialists are partners with different duties. If they're aligned, I'm going to use that word aligned a lot. If they're aligned well, the IT people get the business. And the business people know that IT is speaking business and not IT gibberish. Now, there's a time to speak, IT gibberish. In other words, the only people in the room are gearheads who need to understand that the latency problems in this cloud data center replicating to another offshore are such that, before we get a mirror copy of this database, we have to quiesce it to the point that, are you sleeping yet? All right. But all that is important. But you don't talk about that to the business. You got to say, the European Union says we have to have a data center at least 300 miles away. That's true for Department of Homeland Security for critical infrastructure, banking. Some of the fintech stuff has that. All right, so how do we replicate? How do we make sure that when I write to the local data center, it writes to a data center in Nebraska? All right, that's a very important thing. You get fined by the powers that be for not doing that. That gets real expensive, and you can lose your reputation quicker than you could pay the penalty. So understanding that. So the business managers, you want to look at them as the front end of the external business environment, and usually the IT people have the back end responsibility. No one's more important than the other. And if you start fighting about that, you got a bigger problem involved. Everybody needs each other in terms of that functionality to, business decide what needs to be done. IT responds with how it can be done, but knowing that the decision is in the hands of the people who have the money. And instead of having IT departments that have these, hundreds of $1 million of budget, you're seeing, and this has been a trend for a while, you're seeing the business units owning the spend for their division. The vice president has a CFO for marketing or for sales or whatever, manufacturing, whatever it is. And the IT gets done at that level, and the decisions are made by stakeholders in the business part and not simply IT folks who are coming up with an IT idea, whether or not it's been proven or not. So Katusev has this view of a modern organization. I love his diagrams. They're so unsexy. I mean, stick people and boxes. I mean, he doesn't even have them in color. I remember talking to him over a Skype a while ago. I said, "Do you want these in color?" He said, "No, I like them in black and white. They're simple, they're easy to understand, and I don't want any 3D," he used a different word, 3D scatos, in there to confuse things. So you have the business capabilities of the organization, and you see that in the top half of these three process diagrams. And so internally, you have process 1, process 2, process 3, and there's a business person managing that role. Those processes are empowered by IT systems, and the data that is created or is needed to run those systems is in these various cylinders called DB1 and DB2 and DB3. It's really simple. And then if you have another process, this could be manufacturing, this could be marketing, this could be sales, this could be a lot of different things. And then you've structured it logically, so another set of capabilities is in the second one of these, and so on and so on and so on. So you end up with business activities supported by an IT landscape. It's really that simple. All right. So anyway, it makes things. It gives you the. Let me back up here. This notion of aligning business and IT You're going to hear it 100 times. It can become a buzzword, but companies who really have it aligned, you can tell in their communication. You can tell in the mutual respect that they have for each other's work. It's not an us against them. You know, when you have an IT group that considers all the end users as idiots, or the business doesn't know as much as we know, and believe me, I've been a CIO, so I've had all these kinds of pathologies in the people that I've worked with or in companies that I've come in to try to fix. And that's a terrible way to treat your number one customer, is to disrespect him and or her. And so keep that, IT people behaving badly is this is a big subject. We could spend a whole semester on that. But I just want to talk about, when it works, the IT goals, the plans, the systems are consistent with the business goals, the business plans, and the business systems. IT becomes the how to affect the activities that the business wants done. All right. And they are, it's like, which one of your arms do you want to keep on your body? And when you start arguing about which one is important, all you have to do is have someone cut the other one off. And then you'll realize that, wow, I can't dance ballet anymore, or I can't work out as well as I used to. And you realize that both are important. So that IT important is very important. All right, I want to show you a very simple build here, and I'm going to try to let you know the people who are involved in aligning the business. Okay, who are these people? Let me see if I can do a slideshow from the current slide, and I'm going to need to stop share, and then I'm going to need to share and share here. Okay, I have one of these dual monitor things. So when it works, it's the best of times. When it doesn't, it's the worst of times. So can you guys see a slide that says groups of actors involved in alignment? We're good? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's identify. We have business executives and IT executives. We have business unit managers and IT project teams. Occasionally, we'll have third parties. Could be board members at the executive level, consultants at any technical level or any business level. They seem to be there and that need to be taken in mind. So when we look at this, let me see if I can go here. All right, and understanding their role, it's really easy to grid this out. Whoops, I'm sorry. All right, we have business actors and IT actors, okay? And in those two big groups, we have those who work at a strategic level, those who work at a tactical level, those who execute, those who think deep thoughts, as we joke about. No, in other words, we're going to go into Europe this year, or we're going to go to LATAM and we're going to double our volume. We're going to double our production capacity. We're going to merge and acquire. I mean, these are strategic decisions made at that level. So at the strategic level, what do we have? We have business executives. We have VPs who are heads of business units, VP of sales, VP of production, VP of, whatever. We have the C-suite, the CEO, the CTO, the folks who are in charge of regulatory compliance. If you're a federally or nationally or internationally regulated facility. You also have IT executives. CTO, CIO, and if you don't know what CIO is, it's career is over. And so anyway, no, it means Chief Information Officer. And I have been one of those with various levels of success. So we see in terms of the actors, what's working at the strategic level in the business and in the IT. So you guys with me now? Okay, we're just, I don't want to go too fast, but I don't want to be condescending. All right. So, and finally we have, the joke is these are the people who actually work for a living. And they are the business unit managers, the sales directors, the line managers, the production managers, the regional directors, etc. And then you have the IT project teams. And that's, the networking, storage, the applications, et cetera, however that is structured in the organization. And then you have these third parties who, work in various roles, as consultants, as boards, et cetera. And this is really whenever you need to outline who the stakeholders are, this is a great little shorthand to figure out who works where. And what, somebody says, well, I'm the most important and IT can plan this all by itself. Somebody's not aligning IT with the business. So to achieve alignment, the organization should act as a single big brain, always making best globally and locally optimized business and IT decisions. That's a mouthful, but that's what alignment is. The business and the IT part of things are acting in concert with one another and not at cross purposes or dissonantly. So I say, we're moving to the cloud, and da-da-da-da-da, says, well, we have all the records in our database. We have national data retention rules that we can't take a customer from Oslo and put them in Madrid at the cloud there in Madrid. You know that, right? And wait a minute, that the IT and the business has to be, so no actor, no one person, regardless, if someone tells you how smart they are not smart. Okay, I'm going to give you these little snippets of collected wisdom from Professor Bauer. Someone tells you how smart they are not very smart. Normally, that's a discovery that other people make and needs no advertising. Okay, so that's one of the next one is when someone tells you it's not the principle of the thing, or it's not the money, it's the principle. Have you ever heard somebody say that? You're in an argument and it was, a $40 tab, and someone says, well, it's not the money, it's the principle of the thing. They lie. They absolutely, it's always the money. It's always the money. So anyway, few people, and I've proven that in my own experience. Anyway, so business and IT alignment. I hope you get it. There's a lot of slides involved here, but I won't go through them all. So you have these diversity of actors, the IT business folks, the IT alignment folks. All right, sometimes we know things by what they're not. And so miscommunication causes misalignment, all right? You have boundaries where the business issues are being discussed at one part of this diagram, and the IT solutions for them, when you get deep into it, are discussed at the IT level. And that's fine if you are keeping each other well informed. Is this what you need? Does this do what you need? Does this fix it? Are we in any trouble here? Is there any, well, give me a week to pound on this. Let me let my shop, pound on this to make sure that it's going to work for us, et cetera, et cetera. Poor communication, lack of mutual understanding about the goals, the purposes, et cetera, lead to bad planning decisions. And that means you got, misalignment. Here's a quick little diagram. Poor communication. I mean, this is true in a marriage, just poor communication. You don't have alignment between the husband and the wife because you guys have a common enemy, your children. And if you're not aligned, they're going to manage you, right? And a lot of us who have kids who've gotten older than 5 years old understand that. Anyway, it leads to bad planning. You're not taking all the variables into account, and you have wasted, and as much money as you waste, what comes up over and over again is opportunity and time, and you come to respect lost time more than just about anything. And I've gotten less patient with just wasting time on stuff. All right, yeah, I'd rather spend more time on the planning and get it done than ready, fire, aim is not the kind of strategy you need to do there. Sometimes that's effective. So good comms lead to good alignment, good use of EA, good communication about it, good planning, you end up with good alignment. So gets back to what we started at a while ago. What do we have? What do we need? How do we do it? And how much does it cost? I'm going to hold the section on planning back, and we'll cover that next week. We're coming up on the hour, and I want you to look at that, but we don't need to do it right now. I know I'm not sharing. All right. Let me. Here we go. And just a second here. All right. Can you guys see module summary here? All right. Today, the effective control, management, and planning is the responsibility of the business. Okay. When you get IT people left alone, they can just do some dangerous things. I'm pretty irreverent about IT because I've been an IT person most of my life, and I've seen more stupid things done by IT people. Now I've seen some stupid business decisions too, but I think the thing that Katusev says is we're dealing with people. It's business, it's technology, but it's people. And that dynamic is really missing in a lot of EA discussions. Modern organizations, this is his second bullet in the summary, represent complex, decentralized, socio-technical systems of business and IT. And every one of those words is important to consider. They're complex. You can't have all of this controlled from one desktop. They're decentralized in cloud and mobile and pandemic, work from home, and all of the things that have happened to business in the last 3 or 4 years. Socio-technical systems. I want to work from home. Well, I like having everybody at the office. That is not a technology issue. That is a social issue. You really want to trade 3 hours of commuting in and out of New York City? Why? I mean, my son works in fintech. He has a lot of Zoom on Monday, a lot of private work on Friday. He's in with his team on Tuesday. He meets with customers on Wednesday. That's kind of his normal thing. Thursday is for planning. And so he's probably at his corporate office 25 to 40%. You know, he has 2 children under the age of 4. And so he's got a nanny watching them, but he's right nearby. And he and his wife, who has a similar job, they like that fine. You want to improve that by having him commute from the outer suburbs of Philadelphia into downtown Center City. You're going to take an hour, sometimes an hour and a half each way. That's going to make him really productive. So you can't just say, oh, but we have to all, because we have to. No. A lot of the reasons for having to gather got sifted through a filter that says, can we do this anyway remotely and save time? I'm not saying that everything can be remote, but not everything has to be face-to-face either. So Katusev talks about the socio-technical side of things. And the effective use, third point, of IT needs business and IT alignment. Excuse me. When it works well, you get good communication. The information systems that you manage get better. And we'll talk about this more next week. Enterprise architecture plans, you know, the actual documents, the cute looking diagrams and all this stuff, they really are nothing. Enterprise architecture planning is everything. I will tell you about a famous general who almost 80 years ago said that. And we'll talk about why. Actually, the notes are there for you. So as we get toward the end of our time together, make sure, if you haven't done the readings, I'm going to send you the slides so that if you do the readings and you look at the slides, you'll say, hey, I remember that. Or, oh my God, I didn't hear anything about this. So, you know, you may have to read it again, or you read it with the slide. The slides are in order to the book. But do those well. You have chapters 1 and 2. Sev is repetitive, but in a good way. He'll keep hammering about alignment because it's an important thing to get down. Appendix A, I have a slide deck on about how EA came to be, all the frameworks. A lot of it was the US DoD, which it's an interesting study, but it's not critical, but you'll find that the lack of satisfaction with one framework led to the creation of yet another framework. And sooner or later, that framework got replaced. And so you end up with tons of frameworks, and we'll work on that as well. So the 2 discussion issues. Now, because we're a hybrid class, you don't have to do the discussion, right? We talk about it in the course, right? In our sections. Okay. So I'll just tell you that the folks in my asynchronous class have done a real amazing job at researching the enterprise architecture of Uber. And some folks got the diagrams of their structure. I don't know where they got them, and you know, I don't want to know. I get some people, you know, not pick up anybody from my house anymore or something because we're committed espionage or something. Now, there is a discussion, and you do some reading on it about EA and Agile. And if EA is done right with the goal of alignment, Agile works. But if you think that you're going to move faster and fix a misalignment problem, that doesn't work. It's like driving a car faster that doesn't steer well. Sooner or later, you bump into something that you don't want to bump into. So anyway, so that's So the homework is mainly reading, but we'll start writing pretty soon. And I'll shoot the video from our discussion tonight, and the slide decks. I have talked a ton. What questions do you still have? How's the Sean would know this, Sean 3.0 as a military. They have what's called the signal to noise ratio. In other words, fire downstairs. You know, there's a lot of signal, but you know, or there's a little signal. You know, you got a fire downstairs, and then there's just a lot of noise, and sometimes everybody can do that. You end up talking about things that aren't that important, or I lose folks along the way. How's the level of reception to what we've done so far? Too basic, too fast? If you want to send me a text or an email privately, said, this is great, I didn't get this part, I haven't read the book. If you haven't read the book, read it. But if you're still, you know, please email me. I love doing, you know, Zoom mail or Zoom sessions. As we get these assignments, we'll have part of the face-to-face meeting will be working on how to do the next part of the assignment. It can get real complex, so I want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to get their best work done. Any general comments? Would you like 2 hours of lecturing, or do you feel if you get 3 hours, you're going to get so much more? I can go
Yeah,
5, you know, if you want.
2 is good enough, Rick.
I think there's a point where, you know, our latency and our storage capabilities get taxed out, and I would rather bust that up during the week with other information. But you got to read to do well in this class. And if you're stuck on something, and you got to get Kutusev's sarcasm. And sometimes sarcasm is especially in different cultures. Telling a joke in a foreign language is the absolute worst thing you can ever do. And I've made that mistake in South America. I've made that mistake in Germany. I've made that mistake in Beijing and made that mistake in Tokyo. So anyway, I don't know why I don't learn from it. I guess my brain's not aligned. Anyway, all right. Let me know what you want more of. Let me know what you want less of, and we'll adjust it and perfect it and keep going. Okay. Next week is async, and so I will give you guys a roadmap video like I give the async folks, that just says, here's what, you know, week 2 looks like. It'll be a guide, and you know, it's not more than 4 or 5 minutes. Just here are the treetops, here are the things that you need to do. Other questions?
I just had a question about the discussion post. Did you say you didn't want us to do the discussions, or you did want us to do discussions?
No, I don't think you have to.
Okay.
I see some nods here too, and I think the folks who are asynchronous have to do the discussions, and we're supposed to talk about other things. Sometimes we'll talk about the discussion questions. If I want you to really talk about Agile and EA, I'll say, hey, look over that discussion and read these things. Tonight was all about introducing some basic foundational stuff, so we can worry about some of that later. But that's a good question. Yeah. If you show up and you are reasonably awake when I ask questions and you jump in, all of you introduced yourselves, great, and so you all get the full credit. I don't try to bust people's chops and catch people. doing wrong. I just want to reward good behavior, and so I usually give the full grade. So I think it was Woody Allen. It might have been the artist Andy Warhol who said half of life is just showing up. So just show up and you'll be fine. All right. But thanks for asking that question, Sean, because I've been doing this for 4 or 5 years and I still don't get this right. So please don't tell Dean Wilson, because Kathy likes me for some reason, or at least she says that, and I want to keep it that way. So yeah, if I find out differently, I'll definitely let you guys know. But this week, consider your class participation goals met perfectly. Okay. All right. Anything else? We're good. It's exactly 7:55. You have 5 more minutes to go ski. All right. I wish all of you a safe and brief ride home. Be safe. Sean, yeah, I wouldn't go 83. But 25 is getting better. It's I have been doing that lately, and it seems to be safer than going back Parker Road. So, all right.
Thankfully, I'm at home, so.
Oh, that's right.
No
You're
traveling.
at home. All right. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Yeah. Why in the world would you drive? Yeah, that's like me. Okay. All right. Alignment. Yes, let's be aligned here. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night, what's left of it. And I look forward to going through this class together. Anything you read in Katusev will be helpful for you. It might confuse you when we start doing Togaf too, but he's got a chapter on Togaf that I think is really good. So we'll get to that. All right. Take care, and we'll see y'all later. I'll send the copies of everything in as soon as I get them. Okay.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye now.